Noam, how are you? Thanks for joining me today.
Doing great. Pleasure to be here, and thanks for having me.
Yeah, for sure. So let's dive right into it. Tell me who you are, what you do, what's Wise to Spread. Give us a an idea of Noam Levi.
Sweet. I'm the founder and CEO of Wise Spread. We are a professional services company, mainly focused on Salesforce consulting. We pretty much work with small, medium businesses to help them to implement Salesforce, to optimize it, to pretty much really scale using the platform. I
Right.
started the company 9 years ago, and done a lot of mistakes and learned, from my mistakes, which is a great thing to do.
hmm Yeah, interesting. So tell me a little bit about Salesforce. So like not everyone's too familiar with what Salesforce encompasses, right? Like some people I'm sure have heard of it or use it for different use like different facets of Salesforce. But
Yep.
like if you've kind of seen it from top to bottom being in the space and having a business that relies entirely on Salesforce, like tell us what is Salesforce? Like give us a full scope.
So maybe I'll start with like the misconception.
Yeah.
It's a CRM, right? And it's a tool for sales team. But that's just the tip of the iceberg. It was like that, 20 years ago. But in general, Salesforce basically came out. Founder Mark Benioff came from Oracle, and he saw kind of the on-premise world, the old world where you need to buy a database, you need to invest a fair amount of money to be able to just, have a database, but also have a CRM to be able
Right.
to, manage your sales team, to be able to manage support. And his idea was, let's scrape all of that and basically let's do SaaS, which was 20 years ago. What?
Mhm.
Um, and the idea, and I've been there as a small startup back then. I don't need to pay $30,000 for a database and pay developers, $3,000 for every small tweak. I mean, it's on the
Right.
cloud, which back then it was not even nobody knew what the cloud is.
Yeah.
There was no software. But the idea and the big thing about Salesforce that it's a platform to really allow you to manage your business end to end. And to me, the beautiful thing is that no matter how different or unique your business is, you can run things on top of Salesforce with
Mhm.
almost no code.
Yeah. Mm. That that makes me think of or reminds me of the comparison between HubSpot and Salesforce. Salesforce is very customizable, and so for somebody that's comparing the two, like what makes Salesforce such a great ecosystem as compared to HubSpot?
Yeah, so I think it's first of all um, it's a decision that Salesforce made very early. One that we're not building a solution to solve one problem. We're building a platform to allow businesses to be able to use it and to be able to adjust according to what's unique about their business. And this is the biggest difference between, I think, Salesforce and a lot of other great CRMs, by the way,
Yeah.
where others been built, Zendesk is an example, HubSpot is an example for a specific thing, whether it's customer support, whether it's sales, but the ability to be able to differentiate is very limited. I'll give you a quick example. A lot of businesses have, you run your sales process, great, your marketing and
Right.
sales is awesome, but sometimes you also want to track the post sale, whether it's onboarding or a very simple project. There is no such thing in any of these CRMs or tools out of the box. But in Salesforce, with
Mhm.
no code, you can do it in 5 minutes. So
Mhm.
that's kind of one as far as the big difference between it and the other tools like HubSpot, Zendesk, and so on. The other thing is that Salesforce made a conscious decision when they kind of started is that they want to focus on what they know and do best, which is develop the product. There is a
Right.
ocean of differences between run a product company and doing professional services. And their decision was to partner with customers and I'm sorry, with companies like mine, to basically allow us to be experts in the product, in professional services, in implementation, in consulting, while they can focus on build their solution.
So Noam, tell me, how many employees do you have? Are they full-time employees? and kind of give us a look into the operations behind Wiser Spread.
So we are a team of about 30 employees, and most of the team is full time. We have a few team members that are part time, a few moms, which is something that we always love to hire and to have. So they need a bit more flexibility sometimes, especially with younger kids.
Mm,
But most of the team is full time.
mm. Gotcha. And so, like, how did you work up to having 30 employees? I'm sure it started with just you and selling yourself as a service, and then you figure out this point where you were able to productize your service
Yep.
and really scale what you offer, right? Like, everybody has that point where it's just them doing it themselves, and then productizing the service and enabling that ability to actually scale.
So the truth is I'm lazy,
Yeah.
and I didn't. No, but with all seriousness, you realize that again, it's again that question of a DNA, right? What is it you're trying to build? What is it you want to do? And I knew all along that again, I don't want to be just do the job myself, right? I mean, there are a lot of great
Yeah.
freelancers out there, which they love and that's what they want to do. But it's again, it's a conscious decision where you want to be a freelance or you want to, have a team and grow as a company.
Mhm. Yeah, and I mean, especially in a space like yours, it's you have that liberty of tapping into 1099 workers and kind of extending your abilities because it's all remote. You don't really need to have people sitting there in front of you, you know, lifting boxes in a warehouse or something. So yeah, that's interesting to know. Um, and I like how you speak on the fact that it's a mindset. It's a mindset that allows you to grow into the team. If you have your mindset on just dealing with clients directly and not growing, that's what you're gonna get, right? Like if you shoot for the skies, maybe you'll land in the clouds, but if you don't shoot that high, then how can you expect to reach that? So that's why they always tell you to dream big.
I couldn't agree more. And I think, again, it's okay to dream and to say, I want to have a big company. I want to be a millionaire. I want to this. Fine.
Yeah,
I mean, you have that. This is, when you sit on top of the mountain. But it's
yeah,
also a question that as far as like, okay, what's happening, in 6 months from now? What happens, a year from now? So keep
mm,
that in mind, kind of where do you want to be? But
yeah,
again, you're 100% right. But I would also say, yes, if the ability to work with, 1099s and temporary employees, I mean, if you'll look for it, you will find. I think, and
mm.
I think something that you've said is that sometimes people make the decision as far as without even trying.
And I think you're right in saying that in entrepreneurship, it's all about giving it a shot. Uh, just by trying, you're already ahead of so many people that are just dreaming and not actually executing on their dreams. And it's an obstacle. It's difficult to get started, but I think it might be the hardest obstacle as well. Once you get past actually getting up and attempting it, after that, it's kind of like things just start to happen as long as you're giving your best effort. Um,
One other thing I want to add is,
yeah.
and I've seen a lot of entrepreneurs that I support and I work with.
Yeah.
There is a sense of like, oh my God, skies are falling and everything collapsing and like, that's the end. I mean, oh shit, we have a new competitor or there is a
Yeah.
competitor. We thought we're the only one or things like that.
Yeah.
Again, take a deep breath. It's all good. Keep going. That's the most important thing.
Yeah. Yeah, and I guess you sometimes in business you do reach a point where you become numb because the sky is always falling in entrepreneurship, and
Yeah.
it's like there becomes a point where you're like, all right, the sky's falling. It's just another Wednesday, right? Um, so yeah, so let me ask you, what's it like running Wiser Spread? Like, what if maybe you could give us an idea of the type of revenue somebody could expect in a space like yours? Like, what are the main expenses? I'm assuming it's consultants, right? But like, what's the financial structure like, and is it worth the time investment, or are you really just doing this because you enjoy what you do? Like if you had the chance to go back, would you do this, knowing what you know now? So like, kind of give us an idea of the finances behind it.
So first of all, I mean, you can expect a couple of $1 million in revenue. And would I do it again? 100%. No
Mm-hmm.
question about about it. But it's also a question of, what are you looking for, right? It's not for everyone.
Yeah.
I've I've done startups, very early stage. I've
Mm.
done corporate America, which I hated. And I've been constantly trying to do something of my own, and I have, a list
Yeah.
of failures. But eventually I've succeeded with one thing.
Mm.
And yes, I would do it again. Because I think that, and this is kind of goes back to what you've said previously,
Right.
challenges all days long.
Yeah.
Skydiving, yes, a lot. A, don't take life too serious.
Mm.
Two, when you do get over this hurdle and you're climbing the mountain and you're not, again, far, far from the top, but you're like a little bit higher,
Yeah.
even all these scars, you're really proud of them. You own them.
Mm.
You like them. So it makes you who you are. And you
Yeah.
look back and you say, I will take the same route and I'll have the same scars and I like them.
Yeah. That's very deep. The scars is definitely something I can relate to. It's kind of like a boxer is not. You can't really tell he's a boxer unless he shows like all the different cuts and bruises that he's had over the years, and he'll proudly show them to you, right? That's what creates his identity. Same way with being an entrepreneur. It's all the hurdles that you face, all the troubles that you face. They make who you are as a person.
Right.
Um, yeah, go ahead.
Uh, we have, especially in this era where social media, everything is instant, where we really
Yeah,
like, fast-paced success only, and we look at, the Elon Musks of the world,
yeah,
Bezos and stuff, and we say, oh, they're geniuses, and like,
right.
no, but if
Mhm.
you dig in, I mean, Elon Musk almost, went bankrupt with Tesla a couple of times. He had
Right.
$0 in his bank account a couple of times. Jeff
Yeah,
Bezos had, challenges, to raise money for Amazon, and he did friends and family. I mean, each and every one. Look at the most successful.
right.
This what made him successful. Again, not saying that they're not geniuses, definitely,
Yeah,
they are, but it we all go through the same thing. There
yeah,
isn't, I'm not familiar with anyone. Everything was super smooth, raised
yeah,
money, grew the startup to a unicorn and went public like, with a heartbeat. I think it's again going back to the mentality side of things. A lot of people, will not even try, right? I mean,
yeah.
I'm not proud myself of, being a genius who built this company. I'm just proud myself that, just trying, so many different times. There
Mhm.
was a story I read that a professor asked his students to try to reach out a well-known figure, like a celebrity, and interview
Yeah,
them. And most of them didn't even try. Why? Because what are the chances for me, someone, just a regular Joe Schmo, to get a hold of, a well-known figure?
yeah,
And there was one guy who actually were able to. But the fact is, it's not that if you were succeeded or not, just
yeah,
try. Because
yeah.
eventually something will happen. And you don't know what doors will open while you do things.
Mhm.
So I think you need to have a very little ego to
Yeah,
try, to know what you don't know, to take a
yeah,
step back and say, you know what, I'm willing to give it a shot. I
yeah,
disagree, but I'm willing to give it a shot.
yeah. Yeah, the fact that you speak about opening doors, it's very unlikely that, your attempts are going to go right, but they definitely open new opportunities and show you a new path. So every attempt, even if you fail or, you don't hit the target you're trying to hit, you take away something. So it's not, you've never fully failed in failure.
100%.
Um,
Because again, going back to the climbing a mountain analogy, I mean, you have your backpack, right? So even with
yeah,
failure, because I took a wrong, detour and I slipped,
yeah,
I took something from it, right? I can
yeah,
look back and say, okay, this might be wrong. I've done this, so going forward, I know not to do it or do try something different. So
yeah.
you are getting something.
Mm, yeah. I wanted to ask you, your business is entirely dependent on Salesforce, right? So speaking of challenges, do you see that as a challenge where you're entirely dependent on another company? Suppose that they shut you out one day and say, we want to take, client-facing work and development for clients like we want to do it internally. Like, does that worry you at all?
So I would not say it doesn't worry me at all.
Yeah.
It does. Recently, Salesforce acquired two large consulting companies in the market, and everyone was like, "Oh my God, Salesforce is changing their DNA and going after,
Yeah.
and doing professional services." Not the case. So yes, I mean, you have a lot of worries when, you run a business, but let's think about a company that was the biggest maybe in the market and not here anymore. Someone remember
Mhm.
Blockbuster?
Yeah.
And they were not dotted line to anyone, but the market changed. So from
Yeah.
this, amazing company, basically left dust. So there is always a risk. Take it under consideration. Don't ignore it. And how do you mitigate, right? So some decisions to be able to say, okay, should I do maybe Salesforce and NetSuite, or Salesforce and ServiceNow and something else?
Mm.
Again, these are questions that you need to ask yourself.
Right.
But knowing Salesforce enough, knowing, their approach, knowing, their DNA and how they work with partners, how much they invest in their partners, see the investment year after year, all the signs are there that's the right way to go.
Mm.
So looking at what's going on in the market worldwide as far as Salesforce, I mean, all the signals tells me that it's still the right path.
Mm. Gotcha. Yeah, and I feel like sometimes when you try to diversify too much, you lose sight of what you're actually trying to do, and you really just make it more difficult for yourself. Just specializing on one thing and keeping your focus there really just makes everything easier for everyone, including your employees.
100%, and by the way, that's a conflict that I've had, or something that I was arguing as far as like with myself, right? I mean, should
Yeah.
we? We already have a well-oiled machine that is doing Salesforce.
Yeah.
Why not do the exact same thing with NetSuite? Why not do
Yeah.
the exact same thing with Zendesk or with HubSpot or things like that, right? I mean, it's pretty
Right.
much the same process, just different tool. Um, and the decision I was that why do I want to, why do I want to duplicate if I can double down? And
Mm.
I already have, we already work with the biggest company in the market, in this space. Now to build new relationships with another company instead of enhance what I do now. So the
Mm.
decision was that let's focus and let's, double down.
Mm. Duplicate versus double down. That's going to be the title of the video. That's a good one. So, what's the greatest setback that you've ever faced in terms of wiser spread, and how did you drive past it?
Um, to me, the biggest was work-life balance,
Mm.
because you need to learn the hard way sometimes, which I did, how to really balance between, family and your business, especially because it's yours. You
Mm.
really easily end up working, day and nights, not just because you have to, because you also want to. And
Yeah.
make sure that, take the pauses and take a pause, take a look at others, do other things, have hobbies,
Yeah.
get your mindset clear a little bit. I think this was, for a significant time, a big challenge until my savior, my wife,
Yeah.
kind of, put the
Yeah, I think I'm facing the same challenge. I frequently get grilled for not having a social life, and I kind of I embrace it. But I guess like it's not the most healthy thing to be doing, to constantly be thinking about work or business, or about kind of becoming the next Elon Musk, which I feel like every young person wants to do. Um, but yeah, definitely finding work-life balance is a challenge I feel a lot of people face, and not everybody knows how to overcome. So
yeah.
glad to hear that you've been able to do it.
You will think about it 24/7. You will,
Yeah.
it's gonna be always in your mind. It's going to be in your dreams. It's going to be in your concerns. It's going to be there.
Yeah.
That's fine. And that's okay. It's part of the game. But take time. You'll have to play tennis. Take an hour to play tennis. You want to spend a little bit
Mm.
time with the kids. Spend time a little bit with the kids. I think that balance and just, is important, even a little bit. It's not a 9 to 5. It will never be.
Yeah.
Uh, but, aside from what's the greatest setback, um, I would tell that I think I work the hardest I've ever worked, but I don't feel like it.
Yeah.
I don't feel the toll. And I'm looking at a lot of people who are just, corporate America, working there, making good money, great bonuses and
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah.
You see at the age of 40, 45, sometimes, like, you can see the toll because they also might feel that they've missed something. And maybe I should
Mm,
have done something a bit different or something a bit more, interesting.
mm,
Maybe I should have taken a little bit more risks. So
mm,
it doesn't matter, again, the outcome is doesn't really mean anything. It's just the
mm,
ability to say, you know what, I always had a dream, to go and do my a startup. Try, do it, fail.
mm, mm. It's a great thing to leave people with. Are you content with where you are? Like, are you happy with where widespread is? Like, do you have a greater goal in mind, or like, what are your thoughts on that?
One, I think in general in life, I mean, is to be thankful because
Yeah.
again, not too far from any of us, there is someone else who in a much, worse
Mm,
situation. So one, be thankful for everything you've got. Two, um, yes, I'm super thankful. I keep looking at myself, at a 5-year-old Noam, and I ask myself, and I say, we did good.
yeah.
Um, tell you that I have, there are no more dreams or more things that I want to accomplish. There's a lot of them. And that's kind of our next phase. How do we scale? Right? It's a whole
Yeah.
new challenge to scale and continue to grow. Um, for us, one of the decisions we've made is now that we can say it's an established business, we want to get into more of the product side of things, which is
Mm,
to deviate a little bit and get something new. Because again, yes, after a couple of years, you might say, okay, what's next? What's going to excite me now?
yeah.
So that's what the next
Mm.
for us.
Yeah, everybody that's an entrepreneur has that bug that kind of pushes them to look for what's next, that pushes them to find that next adrenaline rush, right? Once it starts to
Mhm.
dry up, you kind of have to. And if you spend so much time in that entrepreneurial high, right? You can't just stop and face withdrawals. You have to keep going and find the next high. So,
And you know it's going to be tough, but you're
yeah,
consciously doing it and say, okay, I mean, and even people that, done a great exit, right? And you see
yeah,
them going and doing another startup, and yourself, why do you need, the headache? But you're
yeah,
right. It's not necessarily they're going after the money. It's going after that feeling of, you know, big challenge, try to
yeah,
build a team, try to, learn something new, try to win again.
yeah,
So that's definitely part of it, a big
yeah.
part of it. I actually think that the less you have in general, the
Yeah.
easier. Because
Mm.
if you're living off, a very, a one bedroom, you have, very small, minor expenses, you don't have a lot of commitments, you can only go up. If you already have a mortgage, a 4 bedroom, and this, and that,
Mm.
3 kids, whatever, yes, it's a lot more challenging. But if that's what you want, go for it.
Mm. The less you have, the more you can get, right?
Totally.
You can only go,
100.
like you said, yeah,
Yeah.
you can only go up. Um, yes, so I feel like you're speaking to new graduates and people that really just came out of college. They really come out with nothing, and that's not really something to feel sorry about. It's more like you can use that as motivation and realize that I have nothing to lose. This is the time is now for me to take risks. Last question for you. I kind of have the answer to this already. I have an idea, but what's the main way that you get clients for Wiser Spread? Usually with services, I know it's word of mouth, referrals. That's what works well, but maybe you have some greater detail to add.
So relationship, and mainly relationship with Salesforce.
Yeah.
Because eventually the potential clients or their clients goes to them first as as the matter experts, and they ask them. So we want to be there in that place. And this is again, just ask around, think about the entire process. Think not just okay, everybody's doing Google AdWords, everybody's doing this. What can you do different? Look at the whole
Mm,
where your potential clients will go to as a touch point, and think what can you be, at that touch point and try to meet them there.
mm, yeah. So like build the relationships, not just with, you know, prospective clients, but with Salesforce themselves.
Yep. Because The mindset should not be, I'm trying to find a client. The mindset should be, I'm trying to understand the market. I'm trying to understand the flow. I'm trying to understand what
Yeah.
typically my potential clients will go to, where they'll go to.
That reminds me of something that a mutual friend told me, Chen Gruzulis. He told me
Mhm.
about planting a seed, right? You don't always look for what's in it for you. You plant a seed, and maybe it'll bear fruits in the future, maybe it won't. But just everywhere you go, plant seeds and increase those odds of getting your return. So that's what that reminded me of is planting seeds wherever you go.
I will never argue with Chen, but yes,
Yeah.
I couldn't agree more. And I have so many different examples. I always say, I don't sell anything. We just help. So
Yeah.
our mindset is that we want to help our customers. And again, there's a fee for this help, for our knowledge, but that's the mindset. I'm not trying to sell nothing to anyone, at least in what we do. And that's
Okay.
part of, planting the seed. It's part of nurturing.
Since we're wrapping up, let me give you the chance to let people know how to reach out to Wiser Spread. And if you want to take this opportunity to refresh their memory on what Wiser Spread is, the floor is yours.
Sweet. Much appreciated, Amin. Go wisespread.com. You'll see my cell phone on the website. That's the level of connection we want with our customers, and just pick up the phone. Again, I don't think we pick up the phone too often these days, or even
Yeah.
send a text. But just, to make it easier, we want to help our customers to scale, grow their business utilizing Salesforce. We're not just technical geeks, but we're business experts, and that's the mindset. So if you're looking to scale your business, to grow your business, we're here for you.
And could you tell people what makes you different from all the other consultants or all the other developers out there for Salesforce?
There is a big difference between, a consultant mindset and a
Right.
developer or an administrator mindset. A consultant will ask you for, what are your goals? What are your challenges? What is you trying to achieve? And that's where we focus. We will come up with the recommendations. We'll come up with the different solutions. We'll come up with the pros and cons and share them with you and the recommendation. Where if you're looking for a developer, if you're looking for an administrator, then you pretty much need to know what you want. You need to know and learn and understand the system, and then ask them to execute. So there's a big mindset. There's a big difference between what someone who will consult will do, or more of like a technical expert.
And you provide best of both worlds, basically.
Exactly. So, but it's all starts with the process. It all starts with understanding the business. What are the challenges?
Right.
What is the manual? What's things that fall through the cracks? Where do you want to be? What's, sorry for my language, but what's your shit list?
Yeah.
Because using Salesforce, there are very, very easy solutions. And I'll give you one
Yeah.
example. You're the CEO. You want to know what's going on with your pipeline? A scheduled push report you'll get daily, weekly. That's it.
Yeah.
You're doing customer support. You don't need to manually follow up with your customers because the ticket's still open. Just create
Yeah.
an automation rule and think about a scalability point of view. So that's
Yeah.
how you look at the
Mm.
challenges and you overcome them pretty easily.
So what you guys do is not just offer solutions, you understand the problem and tailor the solution based on the context of the business, right? So, yeah. Well, Noam, thanks for joining me today. Appreciate your time and
Amen.
hope to have you on again soon.
For sure.